Good day, everyone, and welcome to today's webinar, Acute Dialysis, New Standards and Metrics for Hospitals to Up Their Game. Kurt Anliker, CEO of NDAC, will be our partner webinar provider. NDAC will also have a booth at the summit in October. They would love to see you in person. At this time, all lines have been placed on mute to prevent any background noise. We will have a question and answer period at the end of the presentation. You can type your question using the pane at the bottom of your screen. This webinar is being recorded and will be available at the Partner YouTube channel within a couple of business days. There are no CEUs provided, but the information will be incredibly valuable. It is my pleasure to turn the mic over to Kurt. Sir, you have the floor.
All right. Thank you so much, Michelle. I'm so happy to be here with everyone from coast to coast. And a special shout out and thank you to CIHQ and Michelle, our very good partners and collaborators as fellow accrediting organizations in the medical space here in the United States. So we're thankful for that collaboration. We'll get right into it, and looking forward to this time together. But first, I want to throw out do a quick poll, a couple questions, and that is, does your hospital provide acute dialysis? I know we've got a wide range of organizations represented here, from very small LTACs possibly to very large institutions. So we'd love to know that. And there are a lot of professionals on this call that are not in the hospital space. So if that applies, question 2, if you do work at a hospital and you have a program, how do you manage it? Is it internally managed with your own people, your own staff, or do you outsource it to a third-party vendor, such as maybe a Fresenius or a DaVita or a local provider? So that'll give us me a little bit more context of who might be on the call here, and Michelle is going to tabulate those. So if you could quickly respond to there, that would be great. But today we're going to be talking about a number of key things. Here's our agenda, learning objectives. We'll try to cover this ground quickly. We'll talk about the current landscape, a little bit about who we are at NDAC. National Dialysis Accreditation Commission is our company name, and so that's quite a mouthful. NDAC is for short. We're going to cover some new standards for acute dialysis that's relatively new in the industry that our company has created and developed and marketed. We're going to talk about elements to success for an acute dialysis program, and hopefully we'll have some time for Q&A at the end. So getting right into it, acute dialysis landscape is indeed changing. There's been quite a number of developments in the last many years. New technology has come into the space. We've got Outset with their Tablo machine, entered the market about 5-6 years ago. The nursing shortage, exacerbated by the pandemic, certainly put some operational pressures. There's financial operational pressures with cost inputs rising dramatically over the last many years. And then you've got risk management. Hospitals are getting into accountable care organizations, ACOs, value-based care models that are really driving quality. They're driving a pay-for-performance metric, full and shared risk models. And then, you've got reimbursement changes hitting the landscape. The recent big, beautiful bill out of Washington, D.C. is going to put some pretty major reimbursement pressures, especially for rural hospitals and those with large Medicaid populations. So all these serve to, put some pressure points around various services in hospitals, and acute dialysis is definitely not immune with that. And so with a lot of these changes, there's opportunities. They can bring opportunities. So a couple questions you can ask yourselves is would implementing acute dialysis, if you don't have that, what would that do to improve your bottom line for your organization? And if that is something to ask yourself, naturally the next thing is, should we insource, do it ourselves, or should we outsource? How do we navigate that? If you're already in this space and you've got a dialysis vendor, are they providing quality care? And how do you know that? I mean, for real, how do you really know that? Are you operating at peak levels and at the maximum you can in terms of safety, quality, those kinds of things. So with that, I'm going to briefly stop and ask Michelle to interject what kind of poll results we might have got back at this point.
Sure. So, Kurt, of these attendees, 94% do provide acute dialysis services. And of those 94%, 36% are outsourced to a vendor, and about 2/3 are managed internally.
Okay, great information. Thank you so much for sharing that, everybody. I really appreciate that. So we've got some big landscape issues that are changing. We've got some opportunities there. This is where NDAC we can come into play. Our tagline is dialysis accreditation by dialysis experts. That's who we are. We're all about dialysis. Our entire team, you're going to see in a minute, is we've got decades upon decades of deep experience and a very, very deep bench. And we can help with all kinds of things in the hospital space, also in the outpatient dialysis space, of course, with our Medicare deeming status surveys for outpatient clinics, but the full gamut for hospitals, from mock surveys to risk assessment, helping getting a acute dialysis program credentialed. We do consulting, education for staffing, really all kinds of things, kind of a full service dialysis touch point, if you will. Very briefly, NDAC, we've only been around since 2019. That was the first year that Medicare approved accrediting organizations to participate in the ESRD end-stage renal disease space. So we were the first company to jump into that game and got out to a very quick lead. And now we provide over 90% of all dialysis accreditation surveys in the U.S. In 46 states now, over 500 clinic locations. We're based out of Chicago. We've got staff all over the country, but that's our claim to fame, and that's what we do. If you're familiar with the dialysis space, you'll recognize some of the largest clients that we serve. These are big national companies: Fresenius, DaVita, U.S. Renal Care. We serve about 95% of the market with the large dialysis organizations, regional players, and even down to a number of independent providers. The onesie-twosie owned, nephrologist owned clinics that are all over the country, and many of them provide great acute programs to their local hospitals, by the way. And now here's where the road departs a little bit. State surveyors, hospital accountable care or accreditation organization surveyors, rather, their experience is not always exclusive to dialysis, particularly on the state side. Surveyors could be surveying a nursing home one week, a hospital the next week, and then they're walking into a dialysis program or trying to look at an acute program. And so there's an inconsistency there with quality of focus. There's certainly no education that's really provided on the hospital or on the state surveyor point of view. They don't help providers improve care or look at quality metrics. And so there's very little operational expertise in dialysis as well. So on the flip side, I've shared about how we're all about dialysis. Our average surveyor has got over 3 decades of experience. We really focus on what's important in the core survey process for dialysis. We identify serious issues. We're very consistent. So one set of interpretations comes through our head office in Chicago through our accreditation and certification approval process. So it's very consistent. That's really important for multi-site providers with hospitals that have multiple locations. So we got out of the gate quickly, serving dialysis clinics all over the country for all the large providers. And then we took a look around and said, you know what? There are really no standards in the acute dialysis space for hospitals. So we created them basically. Dialysis, the word dialysis is actually only mentioned once, I think, in the hospital COPs, conditions of participation. And so we took a look at what our standards were on the outpatient side, and we started tailoring them specifically for the hospital space. So they're customized for hospitals by our thought leaders. They reflect all the current, most current iterations of AAMI water quality standards. We looked at ISO, CDC, all the conditions of participation, certainly in any state issues. So we've come up with a set of standards that now hospitals can use to evaluate and manage their acute dialysis programs, and have really a good metric stick, a barometer on how are we doing if we're internally managed, or what are the things I need to look at with my vendor that I outsource dialysis with. So it's been very well received. It works for both internally managed programs or outsourced programs, like I mentioned. It's a very robust set of conditions that we've developed. You can see some of these listed here, all the way from the patient aspect, safety, infection control. We use the actual latest and greatest set of water quality and dialysate standards. This is from AAMI. Interestingly, Medicare is still living pretty much in the dark ages in terms of AAMI standards. I think their RD52 is an iteration. It's from 2004, I believe. So they're a bit behind in their updates. And so our standards incorporate those latest water quality standards, which are, they're going to serve to reduce infection rates, bloodstream. Higher quality is going to, in the front end, is going to result in higher quality dialysate and dialysis treatment on the back end. So that's our measuring stick for those. So the whole gamut, medical staff personnel, nursing, certainly we look at lab, discharge planning. We follow the whole gamut from soup to nuts, from when a patient comes in to when they're discharged. When we come in and do a survey, we're looking at all the documentation, but it's not just the flow sheets. And everybody's heard the same line of, if it's not documented, it's not done. Certainly that holds true. But we'll look at, what are the clear handoffs? What are the expectations of requirements? We'll look at, clinical. We'll look at technical. What are the machine logs, the maintenance? We're diving into discharge planning, quality indicators, looking at the actual metrics of dialysis. What are some of these lab values? What are some of the clearance values, et cetera? We touch on the whole emergency preparedness side of things for providers to make sure, how is that acute dialysis program integrated into the hospital's plan, right? For safety, getting machines off in the event of an emergency, power outage, a large catastrophe. Many of you lived in various parts of the country where you've lived through that, whether that's hurricanes in the south, the southeast, or blizzards in the north, like we see in Chicago often. So got to have a plan. The credentialing survey process that we do for hospitals, it's pretty simple. It's pretty easy. We work collaboratively with our hospital partners. So it's scheduled in advance. We typically send one surveyor that's on site for a couple days, depending on the size of the program and how many treatments you provide monthly. It can also be impacted by where you're doing dialysis. If it's just a one-room den setting, or you're serving patients all over bedside, ICU, wherever, throughout your building. We'll do patient tracers, where we'll actually follow the whole continuum of care, from coming in and looking at that dialysis treatment to how does it impact all the other places that patient would receive care in your organization. really look at all of the medical chart data interfaces. Are those handoffs being done correctly? Is there clear communication? All the critical data metrics are getting transferred. And some hospitals are better than others. They've got their full EMR integration with their dialysis machines and process into that. Some are completely on paper, where you're just getting perhaps a copy of a flow sheet, a dialysis treatment flow sheet from a dialysis vendor, for instance, and that's basically could be scanned and put into the patient record. So we look at all that. We'll have we'll use our system tracers to follow all aspects of the dialysis treatment, whether that's patient data, the infection control, all the water logs processed to make sure those safety documentation points are thorough and noted. We'll have an exit conference at the end of our time at your facility, so that you know exactly what we found, what we didn't find. There's a post-reporting survey process where we'll give provide a statement of deficiencies and actually provide some recommendations and help items for providers to actually put fixes in place and make improvements along the way. So very critical. Other way, there we go. And now something new. This is pretty exciting, and this is just new as of this year. So what we did was we took our acute dialysis standards, and we've got an additional opportunity here for providers, for hospitals, to achieve a certificate of excellence designation. This is optional. This is for folks that are going above and beyond in terms of quality metrics and consistency. And if that's you, if you're a magnet hospital, if this is a core area of focus, then this program is for you. It would actually be perfect. What it looks like is to achieve a Center of Excellence designation, you have to be accredited by an AO or certified by CMS. So an accreditation organization such as CIHQ or Joint Commission or DMV, somebody like that. We have to have your acute dialysis program certified by NDAC. We'll actually come in and look at, are you providing care according to all our standards? And if you are, then you're eligible for the Center of Excellence. And what that entails is 13 additional conditions, standards to achieve that. It looks like it touches areas you can see here in terms of executive leadership, organization. There's staff education, patient care. We look at treatment plan metrics, patient safety, assessment, patient family education, a multidisciplinary approach, clinical leadership, and dialysis support services. So some of these things, like say, take education, for instance, we'll look at, do you have evidence that all your staff that touch dialysis, do they have continuing education? How many hours? What does that look like? Executive leadership would be something like, do you have a board certified nephrologist that oversees your acute dialysis program? Something like dialysis care, an additional standard might be, are you continually monitoring eyeballs on patient at all time, frequency of monitoring vital signs, frequency of your vascular access monitoring, very important for dialysis. So those are the kinds of extra things to go above and beyond. Family and patient education. This is not something that a hospital might normally do just for their reimbursement of their hospital services, but for a Center of Excellence designation in dialysis, we're going to look at things like, are you meeting with the patient and their families to explain modalities? What happens after this patient is going to be discharged from the hospital and they're back into the community? Are they aware of home dialysis options or peritoneal dialysis? Are they on the transplant list? Have they received education about that? So a lot of things that really set a provider apart in terms of that next level, that next bar, right? So that's what we're after. Lastly, another little note on this area would be in the multidisciplinary care area. Is there a core team across the spectrum, across the continuity of care, doctor, nephrology nurse, ancillary support staff, to really review and look at the whole continuum of care as it relates to dialysis, and how does that collaboration work with other areas of the hospital and the discharge process. So those are some of the Certificate of Excellence designation areas that we look at. I should have mentioned too, as we turn into success elements, if you've got any questions, you can post those in your area along the way, and we'll do our best to address some of those as we get near the end. Hopefully we'll be answering questions along the way here. We're running nicely, had a schedule, I think, so that's good. Success elements. So a focused acute dialysis survey that we can provide you from NDAC here can really help establish quality improvement opportunities if you're looking in that direction for your organization. We've seen quality improvement projects as a result of what we've done. Our nurses that come and survey, they've got so much field experience. They've provided dialysis in the past. They've managed clinics, outpatient clinics. They've managed acute dialysis programs. We span the gamut into pediatric as well. So we've got a lot of real world experience. And when we engage with a hospital, we'll try to match up and do our best to provide our best skill set that shapes with what your hospital is trying to achieve to our greatest extent. So we look at areas where we can actually help the hospital improve, the overall quality, the overall footprint. Certainly training initiatives. When we're looking at the competency of your staff, we're going to be looking at training materials. What kind of things have you provided in the past? What kind of in-servicing have you done? Are there ways to improve that? What kind of competency verifications do you use as you evaluate your staff? What does that process look like? We've uncovered areas too that help providers eliminate variations in their programs, particularly in two areas. One is an area where you've got dialysis provided maybe in a den setting, and then you've got another part in a hospital, maybe an ICU. Are there different metrics or processes involved by different staff? What does that look like? How can we help eliminate variations and bring all staff up to the highest bar of care is what we're looking at. And we've helped develop scorecards with hospitals. Okay, what are the areas that you want to improve in, and we can help look at that, offer suggestions for findings, improvements, and so you can elevate your game across the board, whether that's in training, competency, in service, the actual care itself. We had an interesting incident. It was quite a while ago where we went to a hospital and we had a very amazing fortuitous quality improvement suggestion that actually when we got there, this particular dialysis provider had a very large den setting, dialyzing multiple patients in one center, but they only had one carbon tank. So this is for those that are dialysis nerds that are on the call, one carbon tank cleaning the water pre-treatment before it goes into the RO. And carbon tanks run out. You need to service them, replenish them, and every dialysis clinic in the country is required to have 2 carbon tanks, kind of a safety backup feature. Well, this hospital had one, And we found that, oh my goodness, big quality improvement and potential disaster averted if there had been a chlorine or chloramine breakthrough in that unfortunate situation that could have impacted many patients on dialysis at one time, and could have been fatal. So obviously this client was very excited to receive that feedback, and immediate corrective action went it was implemented basically. Another few areas when we're talking about success elements, or what a focused dialysis survey can also do, is in a handful of areas. When you've got dialysis experts that live dialysis, breathe dialysis, spent their whole career in dialysis, they're going to find some things that probably your everyday AO hospital surveyor is not going to find, just simply from the experience level. It's not they haven't lived it, breathed it day to day, week to week, month to month over many years. So we can absolutely improve survey readiness for hospitals when it comes to passing hospital surveys from CIHQ or Joint Commission and so forth. We had a situation where we've many times have come in before a triennial, or some AOs, accrediting organizations, do annual surveys. So we've come in before and look at specifically at the dialysis, acute dialysis program. What kind of fine tuning do we need to do to help pass that AO survey with flying colors, and really get ahead of that survey process. So that's worked really great. We've helped identify gaps in hospital coordination of care that of course is impacted and could be found by subsequent AO surveys by Joint Commission, CAHQ, and others. The other thing that acute dialysis surveys, when you invest in an acute dialysis survey to have somebody really looking at the dialysis process, it really serves to enhance your culture of safety. So very important, right? We don't want to play gotcha, certainly, but when your staff is comfortable with the process of somebody coming in and looking, and not always just from a punitive standpoint, but from a process of, okay, how can we collaborate? How can we help each other improve in this process? And so that's the whole idea behind culture of safety, normalizing that aspect, making people feel free to raise their hand and say, yeah, there might be a problem here, there might be a challenge here, and no, they're not gonna suffer as an employee for doing that, right? The other thing that we've also seen is a focused survey that we've looked at. It can validate best practices. There are many organizations out here, and in fact, we just found today, what was the percent? I'll just look back. 2/3 of the folks on this call have internally managed programs, and so there's staff turnover. There can be leadership changes. I personally know of many acute dialysis programs that are run extremely well, very experienced folks, and then others have had less experience or new clinicians, new executive leadership clinicians that are newer to this space. So having that NDAC come in and having a focused survey in dialysis can really validate, okay, what are you doing well? What are other people doing in other parts of this industry, of this service, that you're maybe not doing, that we can offer and give ideas to do that. So that's been a really great thing to be able to implement and offer those suggestions. And lastly, a focused survey in dialysis can really give some key stakeholders in the clinical and operational areas a voice to executive leadership. A lot of times we can engage with with the C-suite people of the hospital. Maybe they're looking at the financial end of it, or a risk mitigation end of it, and having us in that process, offering our reports and identifying gaps, calling out culture safety issues where we see it. It can really lend itself to the kind of this grassroots. Okay, what kind of changes are we really trying to make down at our level, right, in the weeds of this acute dialysis program, and how can we get executive leadership on board in our corner? They often are, but there's often areas that can be raised that they're not aware of, or it's not been raised to priority where things are happening, right? So we can help absolutely make that happen. So those are some of the key success elements that we see as we've gone out and done surveys, areas to improve, gaps to close, cultures to enhance, best practices to validate or entertain and bring into perspective new ones, and then giving voice to folks. We did some of you will recognize, especially from the East Coast, this logo, NYU Langone, large hospital system out in New York. Langone is on Long Island. We did a survey for them last year of their acute dialysis program. Faith Lynch is an incredible gal. She's currently president of the ANNA, American Nephrology Nurses Association, and doctor of nursing practice. She's got a lot of credentials behind her name, but she runs that program out there very, very well. We engaged them. We went out and looked at their program from top to bottom, and this was about 3 months ahead of their very large survey with Joint Commission. And great experience. We found a number of things in their program that they implemented, that they were able to up their game. And when Joint Commission came in, they completely passed with flying colors. Had an unbelievable exit survey with Joint Commission, and it went well. In fact, one of the comments was, "Oh, well, if NDAC has been in here and you're already credentialed, it's good to go." So even our collaborating partners like CIHQ, the folks we know at Joint Commission, they recognize that we are the experts in dialysis, and so they respect that, and we work well with them. We don't compete with either of them. Neither CIHQ or DNV or Joint Commission have specific acute dialysis standards, so we're not competing in the same sandbox, so to speak. So we're friendly competitors on the AO overall side. We're not in the hospital space. So great feedback from Faith and her team about the positive experience they had. You can see here, and it was really a great collaborative time. So we appreciate them and thank them for that testimonial. It's interesting that I've been in the dialysis business personally for over 25 years and ran a number of for-profit provider programs, clinics in 4 or 5 states, home programs, joint ventures, clinics, hospital acute dialysis programs. I've implemented and launched. So I've seen and provided and overseen that whole level of dialysis care. And something that an executive told me once that I'll never forget is, like, improving quality, investing in that. If you take care of the patient, the bottom line often takes care of itself. And so improving quality does not always have to come at the expense of profitability. And so when we look at what we charge, and we're a for-profit organization, hospitals pay us a fee to do what we do. There's absolutely a return there, absolutely. And I would I would say that a credentialed acute dialysis program, in essence, is an extremely low cost of almost insurance. If you can avoid one hepatitis B exposure, that's $250,000 easily. I've seen up to $500,000 if it's a lot of patients impacted, the isolation involved, until you can isolate and test those patients. So that alone right there. Hospitals are often able to look at over the whole course of providing care, particularly in ICU. Can we provide a level of care such that when we look back over the year, we can reduce our level of care? Maybe it goes from 2.8 days down to 2.6. It's hard to measure any one patient, but when you've got a whole population of folks, you can reduce that average stay. That's a big savings. And if we can shorten ICU stays by encouraging, managing better dialysis, more compliant dialysis, quicker access, all those things, eliminate mistreatments, all those things are going to add up. On the culture of safety side, really looking at, okay, what are all the things that we can do, that we can control, right, to reduce codes in dialysis? How often, what kind of metrics are you doing in looking at vitals, for instance? How is that managed? What are those trigger levels? And finally, as the little bit of the lower hanging fruit, as I mentioned, with the Joint Commission survey that we did for NYU Langone, how can you reduce tags and therefore cost with your hospital AO surveys? When Joint Commission, DNV, or CIHQ come knocking on the door in time for their survey, is your dialysis in ship shape? Because if you have tags, that's just cost. It's cost to respond, it's cost to retrain, it's cost to implement changes. And so that is the one very interesting thing that I found when I looked at my financials, my P&L, my income statement for my dialysis provider companies over many, many years. I never had a line for survey cost. That was never a line item. And so it's kind of this hidden cost tax, because it shows up in places like increased education, increased, your executive overhead time, your chief risk officer, your compliance officer can't implement new programs because they've been triaging surveys that have gone off the rails, right? That's happens all the time. So very hard to sometimes pinpoint those costs, but every level of item in here can be an ROI win for a hospital organization. So we aim to improve everything at the bottom line every chance we get. So that's nearing the end of what I have prepared. We're 40 minutes in. We've got a few time for questions if there are any. I would like to absolutely thank CIHQ for hosting this, helping us collaborate. NDAC, we are going to be at the CIHQ Summit in October. It's in San Antonio, late October. Definitely on their website, and it's a great event. We were there. I was there personally last year. We're going to have a booth, and NDAC is going to be presenting, and it's going to be a lot more even. We covered the high points today, but what we're going to be doing at CHQ in October is really getting into the weeds, because it is all regulatory. It's all hospital folks there, from running dialysis programs to risk assessors, quality. So we're going to be talking about really detailed things. You won't want to miss it. And if you can go, that would be great. I'm happy to take a call at our number there. My email is there. This is a QR code to our website. Love to answer any and all questions that come our way. And I thank you so much for your time and your attention. Appreciate that.
Thank you very much.
Michelle, maybe I'll flip it back to you for any closing items. We finished a little bit early here.
Sure, that's super. You do have a couple of questions in the queue. Terry Brown asked a couple. Do you provide consulting services?
Yeah, I see that. Yes, we do. In the hospital space, certainly. And we have done everything from mock surveys, looking at policies and procedures. We can do assessments of helping people. If you're looking at staffing or looking to organize a program or in-source a program, a huge question is providers often look at, okay, I've got an outsourced program to, let's say, Fresenius or DaVita. There are a couple of really huge players. They've really been struggling lately to provide top quality service to hospitals. One of the biggest problems is the nursing shortage and the availability of staff. Hospitals, when they need dialysis, they need it quickly. And so a lot of hospitals are looking to take that program in-house. And so we can absolutely help in that metric. So no question is too dumb or too big. We'll absolutely willing to have a conversation to talk about that. I see another question about, do we certify both inpatient and outpatient dialysis? Answer to that is yes. On the outpatient clinic side, we actually call it accreditation. And so we are a fully deemed accreditation organization by CMS, by Medicare. And so what that means is we have got all the authority, power, investment that a state survey agency would have with regard to a Medicare survey. So we can go into any dialysis clinic, and as long as we evaluate and they pass NDAC standards, they can participate in the Medicare program in outpatient dialysis. On the inpatient side, in the hospital world, we call it certification. It does not have anything to do with the hospital accreditation and their relationship and provider number to Medicare. It's a separate certification that the hospital receives, much like a hospital they'll certify their stroke program, they'll certify pulmonology, they'll certify their cancer center. Now they have a chance to certify their dialysis. And if they get that extra Center of Excellence designation, huge helpful if you're in negotiating payer contracts, looking at value-based care. How can you up your pay for performance game and influence that bottom line? Nice job, Michelle. I see a couple more questions rolling in. One is, what are the top items AOs focus on during accreditation surveys? Great question. We follow a set map of an accreditation process. We look at trigger points, and we major in the majors. This is an interesting point. If you look at Medicare and you look at the top tags that they issue across thousands of surveys across the country, you will find the number 1, number 2, number 3 tags focus is infection control. Those are the super easy things that really anybody can spot. Nurses not wearing gloves, didn't wash your hands, those things. NDAC, I put us at another level up. We're not, of course, cleanliness is important, but we're not focusing on dust bunnies under the supply racks, right? We're looking at water quality. We're looking at things that really matter, that can really impact care. And so one of the things that we'll do is we'll actually share with our clients. We're not trying to hide a secret. We'll share with you our roadmap. We'll share with you our survey process. We'll give you the very checklist that our surveyors are going to look at, and and help you prepare. So those are the key things. Another question: do you work with licensing hospitals for outpatient treatments? If I understand this correctly, so yes, we do. We provide Medicare certification accreditation surveys for hospitals that own outpatient treatment centers. A lot of times those are maybe on the same campus. They might even be in the hospital, but separately Medicare certified. It's like a separately Medicare certified dialysis clinic within the larger hospital. We absolutely do that. In terms of licensing, words definitely matter. And so in our world, when I think of licensing, I think of a state issued license. And a lot of states will separately license a excuse me, a healthcare service even before they're able to get Medicare certified. And we work well with a number of states. They'll actually take our Medicare surveys in lieu of their relicensing surveys. So that works out very well. And what it actually does, it serves our clients to have less surveyors in the building. If they can keep the state licensed people out of their building because they accept the NDAC survey paperwork that we can send to them, then everybody wins and you've got one less survey event. Question: where can I find detailed information on acute dialysis standards? We're happy to have a conversation and provide that. They are proprietary, and so give us a shout. You can find us on, you can email me, we'll have a conversation. You can find us online. Another question: what length of time does a hospital inpatient program have to be in practice to apply for accreditation? There's no time requirement. So you could be in your first week of a brand new inpatient acute dialysis program, and in fact that would be a great time to have NDAC come in and evaluate the program so you can get off on a great foot. There's no pre-prescribed time requirement on that. I think that is all the questions that have come across thus far. Any final ones before I give 10 minutes or so back to your lunch hour, lunch and learn here?
Looks like that's all of them, Kurt. So
Okay.
if you have any questions regarding today's topic, please feel free to email the NDAC team or myself and I'll get you in touch. Kurt, do you want to put your contact info up there one more time?
I'm happy to do that. Yeah, there we go. Can you see that, Michelle? Oh.
No, sir.
Hang on, I will, right there.
Thank you, Joseph.
There we go. How about now?
Yes. All right, and we'll stay on the line until it gets down to about 10 participants left on the call, and it'll be loaded on the CIHQ YouTube webinar partner page.
Thank you, everybody. Really appreciate everyone's time, and yeah, it's been a great hour. Looking forward to fielding any questions that anyone may have. So appreciate that. Michelle, I think you said a copy of the webinar is going to be a YouTube link. Is that right?
Yes, sir. I just added the YouTube link to the questions, and you'll just have to look specifically for the NDAC one. It's been about a year in progress, so there's other topics also available in there, but this one will be, I'm aiming for this afternoon. It'll be up and available.
Perfect. Well, we can't wait to be down with your team, Michelle, in San Antonio in October. that was truly a great event and quite fun. You put on a great regulatory summit. Um, so I recognize some names from this call, and we'll look forward to seeing you there.
Thanks again, Kurt.
All right. I think that's it, Michelle. I will
All right.
drop off.
Very good. I'll talk to you later. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Bye bye, everyone.